Hey guys, welcome back to our next video, which we're gonna discuss the different flows in OAuth 2. So the first flow we're gonna discuss is basically the default one, the first one, the authorization code grant flow. And as I said, it was the default for the majority of OAuth systems and servers who work that way and use that flow. And for those of you who forget or do not know what's a flow is basically how the information transmits over these networks of devices and different APIs and different actors, because in OAuth terminology, a different entity like a user, a client, API server, the OAuth server, the resource server, the resources are all actors. They are called actors, right? So every actor has a role. Indeed, here this also is true. So every actor here also has a role. They're code actors, and the flow is basically how the information transmits over the actors, right? So how the information flows. That's literally what it is. Okay, so the first flow, as I said, is authorization code grant flow. Now, this flow is basically the default one, as I said, which maintaining access using tokens. Right? It's all that ideology is just exchanging tokens. The model that we viewed before was right that moment, just that think about transmitting tokens and accessing and authenticating not with the password but with the token. So as you can see, this redirection based flow, which means that the application must be capable of interacting with the user agent. So we have API authorization code that are routed through the user agent, so we are engaging with the different user agent. For those of you who do not know what's the user agent is just how our browser is represented to World Wide Web. So we are talking about web browsers here. We are talking about accessing OAuth and resources using web. So yeah, this technology is all about web, and the user agent is basically nothing more but how our browser is represented through a network. So if you're more curious, you can open, let's say, Google and type, let's say, user agent, and you can see different user agents right here about the Chrome, about Firefox, and how a user agent is looking like. So this is an example of what a user agent is looking like. Mozilla, version, iPad, CPU, and so on. So these are different types of user agents. So this is how a user agent looks like. So imagine when you send a request, let's say when I go and navigate facebook.com, I am sending a request, right? I'm sending packets to that server. I'm sending a request to the web server of Facebook. So now the web server of Facebook knows that I'm sending that request, right? And he sees that I'm using Edge with my user agent, my OS version, and so on. So basically, using the browser and using the user agent, the server or even a potential hacker can see, can understand a lot of information about your system, like the OS version, the bits, the browser, and so on. And yeah, this is really important. And if you need more information, feel free to go and read about the user agents, feel about the overall HTTP communication, and all about the web servers. So let's move on. In every flow, basically, we have different parameters, and these parameters are the way the whole flow is working. Right here we have the first parameter, the URL, the API authorization endpoint. Basically, this is going to be the URL that us as a user, as a resource owner, we acquire. We are granted with that URL. So this is the URL to the API authorization endpoint, which is basically the OAuth server. Then we have the next parameter, which is a client ID. So the client ID is application's client ID. So basically, this is the application's ID, the client, right? The third party's ID. Then we have the redirect URI, which means the callback URL, where the services redirects the user agent after an authorization code is granted. So basically, this redirect URI is working literally as a redirect. It basically acquaintance to your user agent, and after you fill everything needed, the redirect URI redirects the user agent depending on what user agent you have. There can be multiple versions, and that's why it's supposed to basically understand what user agent you have. So basically, when you fill the credentials you need, or it's required, you've been redirected immediately to a new point, and this redirect is being called through that parameter redirect URI. Then we have the response type code specifies that your application is requesting an authorization code grant. So basically, after you've been redirected, you've sent all what you need. Now you are waiting for a response, right? This is what the communication is looking like, the constant requesting and response and getting back the response. So you've sent, and now here you're at the step where you're waiting a response. And then we have a scope and specifies the level of access that the application is requesting. So the scope, you can think of it like how much we can use, how much the application, the third-party application can use your resources, like permission, literally. Like a scope, literally. Everything that scope, the application can use. And nothing outside of that scope, the application cannot use and it's not supposed to use. So scope is just like a target, what resources the third-party application can use and no more. Okay, so this is the idea and the basic graph about the whole process of the first our default flow. And now we're gonna break that into 5 parts. As you can see, it has 5 steps, and we're gonna explain every step in time lapse. So be ready. The first step is, of course, authorization coding. So let me just put my laser up. So we are right here. We have application client, which is basically our third-party application. We have the user, resource owner, we have the user agent, we have the OAuth server. Right, so we are not talking here about resources, resource server. We are just seeing the communication between our OAuth server, the whole authentication point, right? So the first step is user authorization request. So this is made from the application. Like with the email app or from the messaging app or file app, no matter, you are first requesting something. Like everything starts with just requesting something from the server, right? So the next step is requesting, and now the user is basically, this is the second step after the requesting is done. The step 2, user authorizes the application. So basically now user is clicking the link, is being prompted with a login, so something happened that the user throughout the web browser, as you can see here, is asked for some kind of permissions with some kind of credentials and so on. So this is the second step. The first step is to just use the application and the application do a request, and the second step is that on the user's web browser appears something like a login screen and so on, which asks the user to log in, to authenticate itself. So the third step is basically application receive authorization code. So if the user clicks authorization application, the service redirects the user agent to the application redirect URI. The very same thing I was explaining to you. So the third step is to redirect to the redirect URI parameter. So the user entered what he needed, everything passed successfully, and now the user is being redirected, right? Okay. So the fourth step is application request access token. So now on the third step, I forgot to say that now here we have an access token granted right here, right? So after the user redirects, an access token is being crafted for that application, which, as I said before, has time, has different own parameters, and is stored into the API service database, the OAuth server database, where it's being tracked down. Okay, so the next step is basically application request access token. Now here we are basically requesting a token. The application, the third-party application, is requesting a token from the OAuth server. So now the previously 3-step passed away, right? So the user filled the credentials, so now the application requests a token, which what token in the future the application is gonna actually call on the resource server to drain its resources. That's all it does, right? So the next step is just application received the access token. If everything passed successfully from the previous parts, now in this point right here, in the 5th point, the application is gonna have access token. With that access token, the application is gonna call to the resource server to drain some resources. So as you can see, the whole OAuth authentication code flow is just a set of procedures which upon successful completion, the third-party application has an access token, and with that access token it can redirect and use that token from the resource server to drain some resources. So guys, this is the default for the authorization code flow, the main technology and the main OAuth flow that is used by majority of people and the majority of OAuth servers. So basically, I hope I was clear. I hope you understand the point here and basically what is going on. It's really important to understand what's going on. So in the next videos, we're gonna discuss the different flows, and therefore we're gonna see some practical examples of that OAuth authorizations. So guys, appreciate you for watching and see you in the next video.